the ring if you're ready to care. Oh, let's talk power, let's talk speed. Hosted by the one and only WETOODEEP. Turn it up loud, feel the power in your seat. This is slapping me, yeah, slapping me.
What is up, everybody? It is your boy, the one, the only WETOODEEP. That was corny as shit. Anyway, for those who are on the audio podcast, don't watch the YouTube on that. Just skip past it. That was a little corny as shit. But it is what it is. It is what it is, right? It worked better in my head while the intro was playing. But yeah, anyway, let's get to the show. Right, we're here with the Slapping Meat Wrestling Podcast. I'm WETOODEEP. And we're gonna dive in to the realm of wrestling like we always do on this show. If you are new here, we have a show on Tuesday, we have a show on Friday. How that breaks down: Tuesdays we're going to talk SmackDown if I watch it, if it's interesting enough to talk about, and we'll talk Raw as well as other news that have broken. In the way that I like the way the show is on the days that we have it. Well, any news that breaks from today till Tuesday, we'll talk on Tuesday. Any news that breaks from Wednesday till Friday, which is when a lot of wrestling stuff happens, we talk about here on the Friday show. So that's NXT. If I decide to watch AEW that week, we'll touch up on that, or if something happens on AEW right, and so we'll touch up on that. With that starting, I am gonna start to reformat how the shows are produced to give it a little bit of consistency in how things are done. And so from this show going on, we're going to open up with open thoughts, right? What I'm going to call my opening thought of the episode. Excuse me. Then we'll do review of the shows, any of the news. We'll do what I call my deep five. I'm WETOODEEP, so the deep five, which could be a topic of my choice, the top five this, the five worst this, and it could be on any subject. Particularly, we'll try to keep it in the realm of wrestling, but it could be any team, any subject that I come up with for that week, right? And then we'll do the deep five on Fridays. On Tuesday's show, that is where we do questions from the Discord and bracket battles at that point, right? Here we do deep five and react to that, which is essentially I take all the news and react to it, and then or things that have happened and react to it, and then we'll end with a final thought. So opening thought, review the shows, the extracurricular sort of segments to break down the news, right? And then a final thought, right? So that's how the shows will be programmed from here on out. Just wanted to keep you guys updated on that. And I like how this works because it keeps the show formatted, right? I'm not randomly talking about this year, talking about this year, talking about this year. It's all formatted in its little section, right? So with that, we will do my opening thought for today's show. And guys, I hate to admit to you guys that once again, WETOODEEP was right. The Jey Uso Yeet era is not good for television, nor the ratings. Monday, May the 12th, so that was 2 weeks ago, right? So it wasn't this week's episode of Raw, wasn't last week's episode of Raw. The May 12th edition of Monday Night Raw from Louisville, I believe is the city it was in, which was the it was either the go home show for Backlash or the show after Backlash. Yeah, so it was the show after Backlash, right? So the show after the Monday Night Raw after Backlash. I'm going to tell you what was on the show, by the way. This show drew the second lowest rating the second lowest rating in the history of Monday Night Raw. So what did we have on this show? We had Jey Uso, CM Punk, Sami Zayn standing up against Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker. We had Penta defeating Chad Gable. Looks like we had the War Raiders in action. We had AJ Styles. Yeah, the Creed brothers beat the War Raiders. Gunther cut a really, really good promo on Jey. That was when Gunther let us know he was facing the winner of Jey versus Logan. We had AJ Styles beat Finn Balor. We had Io and Rhea teaming up against Roxanne and Julia. And that's the main event. Becky Lynch had a promo in between there as well. So I know the response to this is, how are you going to blame Jey Uso? And the question is this. He's the face of the company right now. He's the face of the company right now. He is the top dog in the company. And part of that responsibility is blaming him when the show doesn't run well, when the show's ratings aren't good. It's the second lowest rating ever in Raw history, 983,000 people. And I really want to let you know how bad that is. That's the American rating. The global rating is was 2.7 million people. Globally, 2.7 million people. Now, I'm not sure if this was, I didn't get too deep into the, all I saw was the graphic. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't even know where people find the Netflix ratings at. I'm just going to be honest. I'm assuming that's the Live +1 or the Live +3 data. I don't know. If it is the Live +3, it's even worse, because that means Monday through Thursday of that week, you only grabbed 983,000 people in America, 2.7 million globally. Again, really awful production, or not production, but ratings here, right? But I told you all that this exact thing would happen. I told you this, right? Let's go back to beginning of the year. I'm not 100% certain when I had this episode. I could spend time to look for it in the podcast app. And I don't remember if I made the episode before Jey Uso won Rumble or after Jey Uso won the Rumble. I'm going to be completely honest with you. But there was an episode. I'm going to tell you the number as soon as I find it. Now we're getting. All right. So, obviously, I titled it something weird. Anyway, this is going to be an awkward segment on the show, but We'll find it eventually. Let me continue to speak. Well, anyway, on this episode, I predicted that that once Jey Uso won the championship, right? And if you go back onto the on YouTube, if you right, and you go and you I told you guys that I'm getting off the Jey Uso train. Okay, so here it is. It was my final Royal Rumble predictions. Episode was released on January the 31st. So quite literally my final Royal Rumble predictions the day before the Royal Rumble. When all the chatter was Jey Uso might win this, right? The image used on the show was AI generated Jey Uso train, and me telling everyone basically in that episode, get off the Jey Uso train now. Right? If you're on it, get off of it. If you're not on it, stay at the station. Stay here with me. Because what's going to happen, and what did I say would happen? I predicted this. What did I say? I said Jey would win the title. They would get their pop. There would be a little bit of enthusiasm, and then the ratings would go down. Right? And what have I been saying since you won the Royal Rumble? What's next? And here's the problem. Sure, the product is boring. It's not just Jey Uso. 100%. But Jey Uso is going to get the blame. The same reason that the quarterback of a football team gets blamed for the loss, even though he threw a perfect bullet down the field and the receiver dropped it. It's going to be the quarterback's responsibility for losing the game, right? Why is it that the Buffalo Bills, whenever they don't make the Super Bowl, it's always Josh Allen's fault? When Josh Allen is the best player on the team, well, it's because he's the quarterback. Why is it when you know Joe Burrow, right? Joe Burrow's probably the second best player on the Cincinnati Bengals, but he gets the blame anytime the Bengals, right? Or it's the front office, right? Or right, the Bengals' problem is front office, right? Why does Dak always get yelled at? Why do the Cowboys always blame Dak Prescott when the biggest issue in the Dallas Cowboys organization is the very dude running the show named Jerry Jones, right? It's because the quarterback is the guy who represents your team, and so you get the praise, and you'll get the you get the praise when it's doing good, and you get critiqued when it's doing bad. And I know what the response from the more casual audience is going to be. And I respect this opinion. I know what it's going to be. I do. Oh, but merch sales are as high as it's ever been. Ticket sales are as high as they ever been. We're making mad money. Record gates every PLE, which here's the thing that gets on my nerves when they say that. Is the same people who are like, look at all the money they're bringing in at live attendance are the same people, or some of the same people who will then 2 or 3 weeks later, when they're looking at tickets, complain about the prices. Well, yeah, those prices being hella inflated are the reason they're making record gates. It's easy to make record gates at PLEs when you're charging an arm and a leg and you're pricing out the fans, right? And we all know this. They just don't want to admit it because there's no rational thinking. There's no critical thinking. And also it would require you to say that, well, maybe WWE is doing something wrong here. I told you this would happen. But here's the thing. You could get the same result you're getting with Jey Uso in terms of ticket sales, merch numbers, and fan interaction in the arena without having him be world champion. That's my bigger issue, right? Is the rating solely Jey Uso's fault? No. Ultimately, that does fall back on creating a product that hasn't been the most entertaining all year. Let's just be honest, because we've been shitting on the build to WrestleMania. Like the product since January they've thrown in the towel. They got the Netflix money. They got the Saudi money. They got all this money brought in for TV deals and everything like this. And I thoroughly believe they took a backseat, started counting the cash, threw in the white flag, and said, "We got it. We don't need to put out a good product. It doesn't matter. We got our money." Right? But you could still get selling out arenas. You could still sell merchandise. Jey Uso would still be your top merch seller in the mid card. It really would. If he was mid card Jey Uso, because he's never truly in the main event. The main event player isn't even Jey Uso. He's not the main guy we're focused on. The best story on Monday Night Raw does not involve Jey Uso outside of the fact that he's the opponent of Seth Rollins. But Seth Rollins and his group are the major reason people tune into Raw. Right? Are the ratings bad solely only because of Jey Uso? No. Absolutely not. I would never suggest that. But he is the face. He's the champion. And I told you, as soon as he became champion, his reign was going to be really mid. The ratings would start to go down because people, the people who are the more hardcore wrestling fans would see through. And what I would say by that, people like me, people like James, people like, you know, other like. But the problem that that the wrestling, whether it is a hard, because there are some hardcore fans who stand Jey Uso, that's fine. You can have that. The problem is when we bring this up. I'm not saying WWE is doing bad as a company money wise. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is creatively, it's bad. And ultimately, and we'll end the show kind of on the same spectrum of conversation. You could put Jey Uso in the mid card. Stop ruining the main event picture. Because that's Jey Uso, guys. Who's next for Jey Uso? Right? What's next with Jey Uso as champion, right? Because they're going to start treating the champion that I'm pretty certain John Cena has defended his title since WrestleMania more than Jey Uso. Or they both only had one defense. Which means you're treating your World Heavyweight Championship, which was created and promoted to be a workhorse championship that will be defended a lot. You're treating it the same as John Cena's title. And the storyline that's being shown on screen, what's being shown on screen, seems to appear to me that Jey Uso's going into a story at some point with John Cena. Because he's sure as hell not in a storyline on Monday Night Raw. The Logan Paul fight was a waste of time. Had no purpose. It was exactly what everyone said it was. It was just a filler to get Jey on the Saturday night's main event card. And eventually what's going to happen, Jey Uso is now playing the background in this story between Seth and Sami. And it would that would be fine. You could have Jey Uso come out. Now Jey Uso's got to go fight Gunther again for whatever reason for the 8th time. Remember Starry Night. I have a joke every time Andrade and Carmelo Hayes get in the ring to fight each other because they did that best of 7 series. My little joke is, Starry Night gets to have her match again, her favorite match on the card, because it was just so monotonous, right? Well, shit. Let's call this out again. Gunther and Jey Uso in the last 6 months have fought each other, what, like 8 times? This would be the 8th time. Because Jey Uso winning was like number 7, right? Something like that. I don't actually. Jey Uso fought Gunther a lot. It's a lot. For the IC title, for now the World Heavyweight title. The best thing that WWE could do is have Gunther fucking win after Money on the Raw after Money in the Bank. Have Gunther fucking win this shit. because I'm just so annoyed with this, right? Jey Uso should not be world champion. And there's nothing against his talent. It's not that he's not talented enough. It's just his gimmick. I talked about in the last episode, if your gimmick is solely just based on like your racial or sexual identity, it's a bad gimmick. Well, Jey Uso's gimmick is quite literally a catchphrase. So if all your gimmick is a catchphrase, to me, that's a bad gimmick. There's no depth in who Jey Uso is. There's no character development in what Jey Uso is doing. It is solely now his booking is bad because he's playing background in a story between Seth and Sami. He completely reeks of transitional championship. And so we just got to go ahead and get this transition over. Give the belt to Seth if that's the plan. Just go ahead and give it to him. Give the belt to Seth. Seth is, for whatever reason, in the Money in the Bank match. That match would have been perfectly suitable to put Finn Balor into that qualifier. Should have been used to put Finn Balor into the Money in the Bank, but instead they put Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins shouldn't need Money in the Bank. Like, there's certain wrestlers on the roster who don't need Money in the Bank. Seth Rollins could walk up, especially because of his character, his story now. He should be able to just walk up to Adam Pearce and say, I want a title match, and there'll be no complaint. He shouldn't be in Money in the Bank. Like, Money in the Bank, when used properly, is 6 mid-card people with one who they're ready to elevate to the main event. And that's not Seth Rollins. I don't know why Seth Rollins is in this match. If anyone from the group had to be in the match, it should have been Braun Breaker or Bronson Reed. Seth Rollins should not have been in this match. But ultimately, what this story, again, I told you, this is going to be the year-long story. And Triple H books this way because it makes it easy for him, right? He can write down and say, hey, we're gonna start this faction and we're gonna end it at Survivor Series. So we're gonna go 8 months with this story, and these are the guys involved, and we're gonna add you to the feud here and add him to the feud here, and we're gonna have this tag team match and this 8-way match, all ultimately leading to War Games or whatever the version of Survivor Series we're getting, and it's just going to be this big story, and that's going to be the big thing for the year. And we're just going to do jack shit with the rest of the roster on Raw or SmackDown for the rest of the year, right? It's crazy, right? It's absolutely boring booking, and I'm so tired. I'm tired of Jey Uso. I told you guys that this would happen. I told you. The merch sales are through the roof. That's fine. You could still get merch sales through the roof with Jey Uso not as World Heavyweight Champion. You could still get record gates with Jey Uso not as your World Heavyweight Champion. You could still get the Geek chants with Jey Uso not as your World Heavyweight Champion. You're locking down this picture, this roster. If Gunther would have won and Gunther could have gone on, and even if it's Goldberg as his next opponent, right? Goldberg could come in and say, I want you next, Gunther, but I don't want the title. And Gunther could have lost to Goldberg and still kept the title because that would have made sense. Goldberg's like, I just want one final match. I don't like how you've been treating some people around here. I just want my match against you. I don't want your title. You can keep it. I just want to beat your ass. And Goldberg could win. Gunther could still have remained champion, or you could have built a legitimate person to go against Gunther. See, that's the problem, though, is they don't build individuals. Triple H does this thing where he builds like factions, and that's the only thing he's good at doing. Like, and that's not the only thing. Like, he's built Dominic up, but it's come at the expense of, like, the Judgment Day shtick has run its course, and they're teasing things, and they're just break them up already. Pull the trigger. Right? So that's my opening thought. Jey Uso, not working out. Right? He's going to get the blame for the ratings, as he should, because he's World Heavyweight Champion. That's just how this works. The Yeet era of Monday Night Raw is not working. People are not interested. Is it Jey Uso's fault alone? No. But he's going to catch the blame. And I really do think that if they created entertaining product, the ratings would go up. I just don't think ultimately this is on creative. I'll be fair, but Jey Uso, just like I said, he's the guy that they're gonna pass the buck to, and I don't think they actually care. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think Triple H cares. I don't think Tony Khan cares. Not Tony. Well, Tony Khan doesn't care either for a different company. Nick Khan. I don't think Nick Khan cares. I don't think Triple H cares. I don't think Ari Emanuel cares. Dwayne Shirley doesn't care. They got the Netflix money. They're rolling in dough. They just don't care. And that is very, very bad place to be. All right, let's talk about NXT. And what I've realized, I've told you guys before that I'm not the biggest fan of going down the way these people do results and talking like going over the show. And what I've realized with NXT is while there are some people in the community who watch NXT, a lot of people don't. And so we're going to, for NXT and NXT alone, we will go match by match on the card and talk about it. Raw and SmackDown, like I'm not doing this with SmackDown because SmackDown's boring as shit anyway. And I probably won't even watch the show. Monday Night Raw, I feel like most people, if you're a wrestling fan, you've probably watched Monday Night Raw at some point during the week. So we'll just keep it as it is, right? So anyway, this episode was supposed to come from Tampa, but WWE did this thing where they did 4 days in Tampa and they charged the fuck out of you for Saturday night's main event and Battleground and Monday Night Raw. And, well, NXT had to get canceled. It just wasn't selling well because, one, people didn't care, but two, like, it's also really hard to sell a sports arena for NXT. I just don't think there's enough interest. But also the Florida market is already has such an influx of NXT. Like they do the traveling road shows in Florida. Like I honestly feel if I lived in Florida and NXT started to do like a Tuesday night episode, I probably wouldn't go solely because I could go watch NXT live, a live event, like a dark match from NXT for like $35. Why would I pay to go watch the television? Right? And that's the way my mind works. But anyway, so this is from Orlando. This is from the Performance Center. The fallout of Battleground, right? So let's take a look. So we start the show with Ricky Saints and Ethan Page battling for the NXT North American Championship. They're both in the ring. We're getting ready to get to introductions, but the match, they start brawling, right? We had security on the outside. I always laugh because they use Draco Knox as security as if he's not on Evolve and people don't know who he is. It always just makes me laugh. And it's not like they try to hide that it's Draco Knox. The dude's wearing his do-rag. It's absolutely. I don't know who the rest of the security guards are, but I just laugh when he comes out there and they use security because this dude's out here running security in a do-rag, and that's absolutely hilarious to me. Anyway, security pulled him apart. The announcer, Mike Rome, said, "You know what? The match is going to start immediately. We're not even going to do these internet. Ring the bell, right?" The bell rang. The match started. Ava came out, said there needed to be a clear winner. That the referee was given more discretion. It wasn't no DQ, but the refs could sort of allow more. There had to be a clear winner. We go to commercial break because that's WWE's favorite waste of TV time is commercials. We returned from that commercial, and they're both all up in the announcer's table. They're brawling in front of the announcers. One of them was wrapped up in the cords. Ricky Saints was then given a neck breaker onto a chair. which looked very dangerous. I personally wasn't a fan of the spot. I didn't think it did. It added to the match because that was obviously where Ethan Page was going to target, and it did lead to how the match ended. I just wasn't. That spot is dangerous, man. Spot is dangerous. Saints kicked out of the Eagles' Edge. He, I think Ethan Page at some point had Ricky Starks on the ropes. He pulled the ropes back, hitting the throat again, which is how Ethan Page ended up winning the new North American Championship. Which was an interesting way to start the show for me, to be sure. I 100% love this. 100% love this. NXT's killing it over the last week with Battleground and now with the actual televised episode. This was a great match. Part of me wonders. I think this feud continues. Part of me wonders, is Ricky Saints getting ready to go mainstream, to go main roster? We'll talk more so about that at the end of the show. Where we had another title match happening, and we're going to break that down. Yeah, I really love this. They allowed the brawl to happen. This is definitely a blood feud at this point. I think we get one more match. It would be absolutely hilarious if at Great American Bash, July the 12th, going head to head with AEW show, it would be absolutely hilarious if they ran a fucking stretcher match, which AEW just ran, and would do absolutely better with this match, right? And you get two former AEW talent going against their old company. I do think there's that level of petty in the company. I do. They run some sort of blood feud match with these guys. I don't know what more you could do here. And so this definitely needs to be some sort of no holds barred, no DQ ambulance match. I could see it being an ambulance, and that ambulance riding Ricky Saints straight to the main roster, 100%. As Ethan Page holds that title down until the next person comes and beats him, whoever that may be. We move on. You get Tavion Heights from the No Quarter Catch crew, which I love. Tavion Heights. The only part of No Quarter Catch crew I don't like is Charlie Dempsey. I just think I don't know. I'm not sure if I will ever come around to liking Charlie Dempsey. Just be honest with you. But he's fighting TNA's own Mike Santana. And let me tell you something. In two promos on NXT television, one on Saturday and one on Tuesday, Mike Santana has gotten himself over with me, and I think with the NXT crowd. Mike Santana has made it, yo. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about right here. AEW could never get TNA talent over on there. Here's why. I legitimately have a question because I don't remember. To the guys who always want to complain, WWE's controlling this the partnership. They get to make the rules, blah blah blah. AEW did it better. How many TNA talent did you guys use to get over on your own show on Wednesday night? I don't recall any. So please let me know. Fill me in. How many TNA talent showed up on a Dynamite? Tell me. Right? Tell me how many TNA stars showed up on Dynamite. Or was it just Kenny Omega's going to go over, Christian Cage is going to go over to TNA, a product that most people don't watch, and sure, you get the biggest pay-per-view buy. Cool. That might be until Slammiversary this year, where we'll more than likely have Trick Williams on the card. I could see a position where we can have someone like AJ Styles on the card. I think it was Highlander in the Discord stated something like he would love to see AJ Styles feud with Joe Hendry for losing the precious title to a non-TNA wrestler. That would be a great story. Have him come in. Unfortunately, like it would be really cool to see Joe Hendry face a line of these former TNA champions. You know, have a Bobby Roode who's working as a producer, have him maybe show up. Have AJ Styles show up. Unfortunately, Kurt Angle can't wrestle. Literally, could probably not walk at this point. I mean, I'm sure he's doing fine, but like, I do not want Kurt Angle in the ring. Even someone like Bully Ray, have him show up and say, Joe, you disrespected the title we fought for. Alex Shelley, I don't know if Chris Sabin won it. I don't remember, but even him, right? And have a bunch of these old ex-TNA guys come in, and say, the TNA title meant a lot to the company and you lost it. And having ultimately it end with AJ Styles and Joe Hendry at Slammiversary, bro, that would sell tickets. That would sell tickets. Ultimately, I believe that's what that move was. But anyway, let's get to this match. Santana came through the crowd. Great entrance. Match started. Tavian Heights started using his amateur background. This match was also very competitive, very physical. I love Tavion Heights, man. I really do. I like Miles Bourne. I think from an athletic perspective, though, Tavion Heights is great. Tavion Heights has potential all-time great IC champion. I don't know if I ever see him as a world champion. Granted, WWE's just handing out world championships to anyone. See the Yeet Man, for example. I can see Tavion Heights, on the main roster, fighting someone like a Chad Gable. I love Tavion. I love Tavion Heights so much. I love Miles Bourne. I think both of them have what it takes to be really, really solid mid-card wrestlers. Tavion put up a really good fight throughout this match. Really, really did good. But Santana was able to hit him with the spinning clothesline. And Mike Santana did win. And that's how the match ended. Very, very, very good segment. Absolutely great. I think there were points in this match though where Santana, you could tell there was a little bit of nerves. He tripped a couple times. I think he tried to do like a sunset flip and tripped on the landing. Yeah, Tavion Heights is impressive. Santana's great. I love Santana. Ultimately, where this is headed though will be Santana versus Trick Williams. We get that next week. Santana versus Trick Williams next week. I do believe it is for the TNA World Championship. I don't think Santana's winning. I do think Trick Williams will end up winning that match. They have a Friday night special coming up on TNA Plus. I forgot the name of it. It just slipped my mind. Let me find it real quick. I have the picture on my phone. Against All Odds. They have Against All Odds coming up June the 6th. Cool. They ran it. They did it great. They're running these after SmackDown now. Look, if someone has TNA Plus and they would like to let me borrow their login, I'd like to watch this. I just can't afford it, to be honest with you. But TNA, World Championship on the line there as well. It'd be either Mike Santana or Trick Williams. Whoever wins next Tuesday will take Elijah on. And I think that's going to be the center focal point of the feud. I think Trick Williams will be in that match against Elijah. I think Trick Williams will beat Elijah. And ultimately, I think we do get Trick Williams versus Mike Santana in New York, where Mike Santana is from, where that is where Mike Santana will win the championship back to TNA. All right, so Trick Williams came out after the match. Said that Santana Santana came out and told Trick that he made a bad impression by trying to tear down TNA in the promo. He called Trick a pretender. He let him know that he was a Boricua from the Bronx. I love that. Keep mentioning that because that's important. Because they're fighting in New York. Right? Pretty standard promo. But guys, that's all you need for this. For you don't need the rap battle style promos. You don't need anything exuberant. I think people don't truly understand storytelling anymore. You don't need the over extravagant promos. This promo did its job. And what was the job? To get the match next week. Santino comes on. Said Santana will get the match next week. After this, we get a backstage segment. Kel Dixon, Uriah Connors, talking to Andre Chase, with the Chase U. Andre Chase said you got to stop taking. Said you gotta take some risk, and that's fine, but you got to be smart about it. Dixon and Uriah Connors misunderstood him. Said we're going to take some more risk. Gets a title match, or excuse me, not a title match. Ava shows up. They say, Ava, we want another match. She says, that's fine. You'll get Dark State. This is going to be the gag for this point of Chase U, where Uriah and Kale just don't understand what Andre Chase is trying to say. They're going to do stupid stuff that's going to end up hurting Chase U. You see what I'm saying? Next after that, we get a match, Tatum Paxley versus Jada Parker. I'm going to be honest with you. When I record the shows, there are certain matches that just don't tickle my fancy sometimes to watch. This was one of the matches I did kind of skip over. Not because I don't care about the two. It's just there's really no story between the two. The bigger story is Jada Parker versus Thea Hale, right? Which does play up at the end. So I go to where the story is, right? Because on a week to week, I care about the story, not necessarily a match. I'm sure this was a great match. I love both of these women in the match. Tatum Paxley is running a decent gimmick. I think she should be called up at this point, right? I don't necessarily think there's anything else for her to do on NXT. They're obviously not going to put her in the title picture. Move her up. She could run the mid card on Raw or SmackDown. Maybe get some more competition in the mid card. Jada Parker does win. Standard match. Again, Thea Hale comes out, attacks Jada Parker. Once the match is over, that's the bigger feud. After this, Stephanie Vaquer was in a promo with Ava. Ava says, hey, at Worlds Collide, you're going to have a tag team match against, I don't remember the names of the two Triple A superstars that they're going to be that she's going to be fighting. But you need a partner, Stephanie. Stephanie's like, okay, I'll find one. And just then comes the Lola Vice. Lola Vice, Stephanie Vaquer will tag team. against the two AAA superstars that I can't think of their names off the top of my head. And so there it is. We go to commercial. We were told Jasper Troy, the winner of LFG, he will make his in-ring debut. We come back. Dante Chen's in the ring again. Man, I feel bad for Dante. This bro's always in the squash matches, and he's always the one getting squashed. Jasper Troy comes out. Jasper Troy is a beast already. I'm already sold on him. Right? I'm not the biggest fan of the show LFG. I think it's too overly scripted. I lost interest when I realized that everyone on the show already had performance center contracts and could show up at any time, basically, on NXT. I think the idea of the show is fine. What I would prefer is to go do the old Tough Enough thing, where you would find non-contracted wrestlers who earn a performance center contract. I think that would be a better reality show, to be honest with you. Anyway, Jasper Troy beats the shit out of Dante Chen. That's all you need to know. Obafemi then comes out. He's in the crow's nest. He said that Jasper Troy's 5 seconds of fame are over. This obviously is going to lead to a match, which is interesting booking. This is what I'm talking about, where like NXT's men's division isn't as deep as the women's, and so they're and with Oba being the size that he is and the type of champion that he is, they don't have anyone for Oba. It's a really interesting situation that Shawn Michaels really. This is why I was not the big fan of putting Javon Evans in that triple threat. I believe they had a triple threat earlier in the year, right? And then I thought that it should just been Oba and Trick, and that they could save Javon Evans, because Javon Evans could be your super baby face in your back pocket that you could throw in when Oba needs that legitimate. So like, imagine this match being Javon Evans versus Obafemi at the Great American Bash. Because I've always thought Javon Evans was like the weapon that you could use as David versus Goliath in this feud. And you sort of blew past that match in a triple threat, right? And so that's why I'm a little bit frustrated with it. And now because of that, you don't have a baby face, because all the baby faces that would have made sense, you've either already used with Javon Evans, or you turned on heel like someone like a Wes Lee. I think Wes Lee could have fit this spot well if he wasn't in a heel faction, which we, I guess, get a name now. The name's like High Rise or something like that. Something stupid. But yeah, they don't have anyone for Oba. And so Oba's sort of floating around. He's fighting Miles Bourne. No diss to Miles Bourne. Great match. Not the high caliber match Obafemi is the NXT world champion needs to have. Now you're going to put him against Jasper Troy, who's new to the scene. He's going to be in the title picture already. No diss about it. He's got the Booker T blessing. So I know Jasper Troy was one of the first dudes on the first episode. The only episode of LSG that I watched was the first one. He was the guy who stood out the most to me. So I like Jasper Troy. There's no diss to Jasper Troy. It's more of a diss to a creative that they've done a lot for the women's division. Shawn Michaels really loves his women's division. He hasn't given the same grace and the same booking attention to the men's division, where there needs to be some guys in that picture that are legitimate threats to Oba. As much as Miles Bourne, I liked that upset story. He just wasn't a legitimate threat. And the only legitimate threat you had, you've already wasted that match. And so you haven't created anyone else. So now you're putting Jasper Troy, who has the size advantage. But I feel like this is just another like stop in the road. Like, you could do the same thing here with like a Keanu Carver and have him come up from Evolve and put him against Oba and do the same type of story as well. But I think there are guys on the roster that you could definitely put in this position if you build them up correctly, right? we get a segment in between that match and the main event of Ethan Page coming out to celebrate winning the North American Championship. He was interrupted by one man named Javon Evans, who came out and said, "I'm getting a title shot at Worlds Collide." Oh, but hold on, Ethan. It's not just you and me. We also have play this guy's music. He's like, I'm bouncy, but this guy also likes to be bouncy. And it's a Laredo kid from AAA. I don't know much about him. The crowd seemed to enjoy it a little bit. I'm not the biggest fan of. Okay, well, let me say it this way. I'm fine with introducing him to the product this way. Now, what I need you to do is tell me who he is. As someone who has never watched AAA, as I'm assuming 90% of the NXT audience has never watched. Like, I know the name, but I'm certain most people either know the name or maybe some don't, but they definitely don't know who he is. You gotta sell me on who he is. So now it's Javon Evans, Laredo Kid, Ethan Page. But one more. Ray Phoenix showed up. And so Fatal 4-Way at Worlds Collide for the North American Championship. Again, this is sort of the same booking thing as the World Championship, the NXT Championship. You just don't have any men that are in the position to battle for the titles right now. Right. So after that, you go to commercial, you come back, and you get the main event. Jacy Jane comes out. Stephanie Vaquer comes out. Stephanie Vaquer comes out looking beautiful, as she always does, in the purple. Actually, I think she was in the red. She should have wore the purple she wore on Saturday. She would have won. No, but I think she was in the red or the blue, as normal. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Again, we stopped the intros because of a brawl that happened at the beginning of the match. The bell gets rung. The two women from AAA showed up to distract Stephanie Vaquer. Lola Vice came out to fend them off. Pretty decent match throughout. Wasn't anything complicated. To me, this just felt like a simple match for Stephanie to get added to her belt of defenses. This distraction almost led to a Jacy Jane pin and win. Stephanie kicks out, hits a springboard crossbody, and kick out by Jacy Jane. I don't remember the sequence that led up to the win. Or what was distracting the yeah. No, I know what it was. Fallon and what the fuck is her name? Jasmine Nix. And Jacy started having some issues on the outside of the ring. Jasmine gets pushed. She goes to the one side, the far side of the ring, like walks around the ring. Eventually, they get to a place where both Jasmine and Fallon interfere without getting caught, which leads to Jacy Jane winning the match. Jacy Jane is your new NXT Women's Champion. And this is Mike Rome's face is my face. Just sitting there. Because I'm going to be honest with you. The immediate emotion that I could have responded with if I were making a podcast, like if I was doing a live stream, this is why I don't do live streams. Because live streams, they get immediate reactions. And then like I have to take back what I said. Because all it took was about 30 seconds of thinking this through. Bro, first off, 100% happy for Jacy Jane. 100% happy for Jacy Jane. Because this woman, I know how hard she's worked over the last 4 years, right? Been in NXT for 4 years. I met her when she was in the Indies. She came to a couple local indie shows here, PWX. She did 2 shows in the summer of 2018, I believe it was. 2018 or 2019, I don't remember what year it was, 100%. And she was going by her indie name at the time, Avery Taylor, and I told her, and I'm sure she doesn't remember it, but I told her I've the first match I've seen her in after the show, go up to meet her, to, get an autograph and a picture, right? And because so I don't know if you guys know how indie shows work. A lot of times, if you want like a picture with indie wrestlers at the show, it costs money, right? Because that's how they make their living, which is fine, right? And so I typically I don't buy merchandise because people typically don't stock my size. And I don't wear t-shirts a lot, right? Especially wrestling shirts, because wrestling shirts don't fit in normal life. Like a lot of times it'll have a catchphrase or something. And I just want something that I could wear. First off, I wear black, white, or gray. That's the only colors I will wear every now. I got that blue, that like tealish green shirt that I wear now, but that you've seen on the podcast a couple times. But I like plain clothing. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of having slogans or logos on my shirt, to be honest with you. I want something that I could just throw on, be comfortable in, and it fits in. Like I don't, because I'm not a fashion person, right? I don't care if things match. I really don't. Like I wear what's comfortable. I wear what I like, and I like to be comfortable. And so I get neutral colors because neutral colors go together. I don't have to worry about matching, right? If you want fashion advice, go to DJ Wavy D. I ain't got none for you. Anyway, I'm happy for Jacy. I told her in 2018, 2019, I don't remember the year that I met her, hey, this is the first match I've ever seen you in, but you're going to be a superstar. I just know it. And here we are several years later. She's in NXT. She's in Toxic Attraction. She's the hottest faction in WWE. Mandy Rose gets released because Mandy Rose chose to be. I'll be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of Mandy Rose anymore. She chose herself over everybody else. Her making the decision to do that did not just affect her job, it affected eventually Gigi Dolan getting released because there was nothing for Gigi to do outside of that faction. Jacy was able to reinvent herself. I think she definitely did better outside of that faction than Gigi did. A lot of that I do think it's booking, but yeah, Jacy deserves this. She's obviously a transitional champion, and this is the thing that irritates. Why not Jordynne Grace? Why couldn't Jordan win it? Guys, because not only is Stephanie getting called up, Jordynne Grace is getting called up. This is obvious. Jordynne Grace is getting called up. She's going to SmackDown. Stephanie's probably going to Raw. And that's awesome. Because ultimately, what I do think that is if Stephanie's on Raw, I think she may earn a spot at Money in the Bank. I don't think so because she's working Worlds Collide, and I think Worlds Collide will be her last sort of NXT show, and then she'll in the fallout of Money in the Bank, Worlds Collide that next Monday. I think she will show up in NXT, or excuse me, on Monday Night Raw, and I think she will make a play immediately for Io Sky. And I think that'll be the big feud. I think there could be a big possibility that Stephanie Vaquer could beat Io Sky for the title by the end of the year. I could see that happening. It may not, but I could see it happening. That's why Jacy won the title. She's transitioned. She's in an active feud that's going to now take place with her and Fallon Henley, which I think Fallon Henley will then beat her for the championship. But ultimately, I'm 100% convinced. Now, I said this about Okada, and I was wrong. But this booking, them clearing house of the women's division, right? There are said to be, from sources that I don't remember where I got it from. Someone's sources told them somewhere that could have been Fightful. I don't know. I don't remember where I saw this, but there are sources out there saying, should have got the tweet so I could quote them correctly. Because God forbid if it's Fightful and Mr. SRS said this information, and I don't give him credit. God forbid I may get an angry DM. But the rumor has it there's about 4 to 6 call-ups about to happen. Stephanie, Jordan Grace. Like I said, I think Ricky Saints is one of them. I don't know who the other 3 could be. Possibly, I don't know. I think Lola Vice is going to be one of them. I do. I don't think they really have anything for her in NXT, and I think she's as developed as she's ever going to be. I think she'll be fine. I think this could be the possibility of Lola Vice could take over Elektra Lopez's role as like the female figure in Legado del Fantasma on SmackDown. She could take that role over, but also she can wrestle, where Elektra wasn't the best in the ring. Both Legado is going to be at Worlds Collide. I could see, Lola's going to be at Worlds Collide. They could collab there. And that could be an interesting mixture of talent. We'll see what happens, but there's going to be some call-ups. I think Jacy and Fallon will be the story heading forward. Fallon, I do believe, will win the championship. This whole idea is Jacy getting Fallon over, right? After Fallon, ultimately where I believe this ends, because I think what happens is that feud happens on NXT television. Whichever one of them, I think the big match happens at Great American Bash, July 12th. I think Fallon wins there, and you need it. You need a face to win the title, because, and I know people are going to be crazy are going to look at me crazy when I say this. I 100% believe Fallon Henley will turn face, beat Jacy Jayne for the title, and Mariah May will debut July 12th for NXT. For NXT, 100% believe. When I was on another podcast several months ago, when Mariah May was rumored to be leaving, right, and we went over that, and I said that if I was Mariah May, I would get my money from Tony Khan, and I would wait until they cleared house in NXT. Well, it looks like they're clearing house in NXT. They're getting rid of the big talent, because I kind of thought that Jordan Grace and Stephanie Vaquer and Julia would all stay on the NXT roster a little bit longer, like a year or two longer, while they did all the stuff. Right? No. Julia's already been called up. Roxanne's been called up. Stephanie's getting called up. Jordan Grace is getting called up. The big 4 at the beginning of the year, they're now on the main roster. They're clearing house. They're clearing house for Mariah May. I think after this feud, Jacy Jayne goes main roster, and we have Mariah May fight Fallon Henley. I could also see a feud where Jasmine Nix is involved in this in somewhere. Well, that'll be an interesting story to figure that out. But I think they've made room on the roster now for NXT for Mariah May to come in, get acclimated to WWE system, how to work the camera. She's already good at all of that stuff, right? And so she could come in and she can be the powerhouse for the NXT women's division for the next year before getting called up. I like that a lot, 100%. I'm not going to put a guarantee, stamp, sign, sealed as it's going to happen on it, but I'm pretty damn positive that Mariah May shows up. And what makes that petty as shit that I love is that everyone is expecting Mariah May to show up July 12th in Texas at All In, and instead she'll be in Atlanta at NXT, and I will absolutely lose my shit. Absolutely lose my shit if that happens. So that's my NXT thoughts. We'll talk about AEW for just a little bit. There's a couple things that I want to talk about. So the first one is they have this faction called the Frat House that apparently was on ROH, and they put on this taping today on Wednesday. I don't get it. It's stupid. It's literally the dumbest thing I've ever seen. It is Temu Chase U, but at least see the thing with Chase U is that it was designed to get younger talent over, right? Uriah Connors, Cale Dixon, Thea Hale, Bodie Howard, right? It was never designed to get some 35-year-old man over, right? I mean, it got Duke Hudson over. I don't think that was the design of putting him in the group. It just sort of happened organically, right? Keep that off of TV. That's bad. This was an injury fest. Harley Cameron broke her nose. Anna Jay in the same match by the same person named Megan Bain gets dropped on her face. Hope that's fine. We're going to go ahead and list all the bad. I didn't watch a lot of the show. It was on and I was kind of paying attention, right? Thekla. I don't care. I don't care if you call it Tekla. There's a fucking H in the name. It's Thekla. Thekla shows up. She debuts, which is fine. Here's the thing. I already like her. She has an aura to her. She's Austrian, which anytime you can get East European on the screen, like my man Gunther, I'm all for it. I have the closer you are to Poland, the better, because I love Poland. Polish women are beautiful. By the way, Thekla is beautiful. She's Austrian, so she would have really worked as Gunther's little goonie if they could have got her in WWE. Wait about 3 to 4 years and she'll be there. But Thekla shows up, and what I think is the worst possible debut ever for her. Here's why. This is how you know AEW fans don't care about storyline or storytelling, right? Because they think that putting a little spider crawling on the screen as a teaser is enough to tell people about the character, right? And no. That's not how this works. Now, I will say maybe this is a little bit premature. Maybe on Saturday or maybe next Wednesday, we'll get a promo from Thekla and they will fill us in on who she is. Because she showed up, and as a casual, I don't watch New Japan or Stardom type stuff, I have zero idea who she is. Like, I've heard her name in the rumor realm, and I know what she looks like. And she has a look to her, absolutely. But, like, who is she? What is her? Again, it's about setting up who the character is. And so someone like James, I brought that up in his stream last night. And he's like, well, what about what they did with Jeff Cobb? And I said, yeah, Jeff Cobb debuted on a PLE, and the next Friday, because that's the show he's on. The next Friday, they had him in the ring, and they told us who he was, who Jacy Mateo was. I don't have faith that Tony Khan is going to do that. I don't, because history tells me he won't. We still haven't figured out in 3 months why Megan Bain is partnering with Penelope Ford. They have zero. They don't. Tony Khan thinks that telling a story just means giving you action and plot points, but you have to make plot points that connect. And in order to do that, you have to build a foundation. If you don't build a foundation for your story to stand upon you end up with Megan Bain in the fucking pre-show because there's no reason. Right? First off, they blew the load too quickly on her. Like, Megan Bain still has redeeming qualities about her. I think she's an indie darling that is very dangerous in the ring at this point and could definitely benefit from a performance center, but that's a different comment, like a different conversation. But cool, you put spiders on the screen and had them crawl around, and that was your teasers. That's fine. And then the whataboutisms about, well, But the Wyatt Six had, yeah, and guys, you're talking to the wrong person when you bring up the Wyatt Six, because I shit on that the entire 6 months we waited for the Wyatt Six. You're talking to the wrong person. Oh well, Jeff Cobb didn't get it coming soon. Well, that's because they knew exactly what they were going to do with Jeff Cobb. They're going to have him debut, and they're going to introduce us to Jacy Mateo. And also, why didn't they fill us in on Jeff Cobb's stuff in New Japan? Because it's Jacy Mateo. It's a whole new character. That's why I like how they did it, because you don't have to lean on that stuff. This is a brand new character to the WWE universe, and you can formulate his background story. And that's what they've done. What you could have done with Thekla is brought her in, given us 2 or 3 weeks of vignettes to fill in who she is, and still had a surprise debut on this episode. You could have ran it at the pay-per-view in between matches. A coming soon promo for Thekla, where she cuts a little promo about who she is, what she stands for, what she's gonna be. But not only that, you miss her the whole attack, the initial attack, because the camera is at the stage. When it comes back to the ring, Jamie Hayter's already knocked down. So you miss the attack, the initial attack. Not only that, now you completely, like, Mercedes buried Jamie Hayter on Sunday, but Thekla came out and just started putting more dirt on the grave. Like, Jamie Hayter is completely squashed at this point, which is absolutely just asinine, because she's such a great talent. Miss Hayter, may I offer you some advice? You don't have to take it. You don't know me from Adam, but get with Britt, and both of you come take a journey over to Orlando. Drive down I-4 out of Jacksonville. I think you got to get on 95 and then get on I-4 from there. But anyway, you get the point. Come down to Orlando. Come sign an NXT contract. Come join Miss Mariah May and bring Britt with you. And we could start a whole new era of women's wrestling with some great talent in NXT. Now that the big four are out of there. And we got a clear top of the card that needs some wrestlers. Come on down. Come on down, Miss Hayter. We will take you to new heights here in the WWE, because you were absolutely squashed. And my initial response to Thekla's debut is, perfect. Just another woman that will be buried by Mercedes and Toni Storm, because the only 2 women Tony Khan seems to care about is Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné. Speaking of that segment was awkward as all hell. The only good segment on this show that I enjoyed, which is going to be crazy with the men in front of it that are in the segment, because I've called them out a lot. Swerve Strickland, Hangman Page, and Will Ospreay put on a very good promo segment that told a story. Guys, they can do it. They can tell stories in AEW. Holy shit. What a promo this was. Went about 20 minutes. You laid the groundwork for what I think is going to be a very good moment on July 12th. Hangman Page versus Jon Moxley, and you're laying this argument that Will Ospreay's trying to be the mediator between Hangman and Swerve to try to get them to work together. We got to work together to beat the Death Riders. Y'all can take care of your feud once we get the world title back in AEW. From Jon Moxley. And Swerve says, I don't trust him. Hangman says, I don't trust him. Ultimately, we got just over a month. You got about 44, 43 days at this point until you get to All In. Just enough time to build up a story. And guys, this is obvious where this is headed, or where it should head. We're in the match. Will Ospreay's obviously going to come out and play interference at some point. probably to beat up the Death Riders who are trying to beat up Hangman, right? And then ultimately the numbers are still going to be in the Death Riders' favor. And that's going to lead to Swerve Strickland. Guys, I'm going to tell you, in this match, this is probably going to be the main event, which means it's probably going to be on far after Great American Bash is over. Saturday night's main event may already have started by the time this pay-per-view is over. But I'm going to tell you, even me as a non AEW fanboy, if I'm watching this match, and during this match, I'm going to go ahead and play this out for you, right? Hangman and Moxley are going to start fighting. Death Riders are going to start getting involved in it, whether it's Claudio, Wheeler Useless, or whoever. Will Ospreay is going to come down to fend them off. You'll probably get Willow coming down to fend off Marina. Right? And I think what's going to happen is you're going to still have that numbers disadvantage. And you're going to have this tension. You're going to have this rising climax action. And the climax is going to hit. And it's going to be, whose house? And the crowd is going to lose their ever-loving mind. Because Swerve Strickland comes down, appears to help Hangman, but cannot help Hangman, and instead attacks Hangman. Jon Moxley retains. I'm telling you, they're setting this up for Darby Allin to win the title at WrestleDream. No one believes me, but I'm telling you that this is what's going to happen. And Swerve is going to be the very person that cost Hangman the title. They can get that feud cooking back up again for Forbidden Door or All Out. So that's the way I think it's going to happen. Or let me say, that's the way I would book it, because I do think they're saving the title for Darby. But what I think could happen as well, same reaction. Whose house? Swerve. Swerve comes out and actually helps Hangman. I think that's where they're leading to. I would have my personal booking. I would have Swerve cost Hangman the title. I think what Tony's going to do is have Swerve come out and help Hangman get the title, with the expectation that Swerve gets the first match, the first defense against Hangman. Right? So either way, I think both would be good results. But that's the story, right? There's not going to be Swerve's going to win the title from Moxley before all. No. Don't convolute this shit. That type of shit that James booked on last night on his podcast, where he said that he thinks that Swerve's going to win the title from Moxley before All In. Don't convolute the shit. That's the type of booking Dwayne would book, where he would insert a part of the story that doesn't need to be there. Just let this thing ride out, because you have the perfect story, bro. This is, I talk about AEW not able to do stories. This is a great story. They're getting there. Like, this gets me in to watch the show. This should have ended the show. I'm going to be honest with you. You should have started with Mercedes and them and ended with this, right? Because this gets me interested in watching the product. And if I need this, right? So next Wednesday, I'm interested to see where this promo battle leads to. So put this in the middle or the end of the show so that I have to participate in watching the rest of the show, right? Because this is what's interesting to me right now, right? So I'll give some credit to AEW. They got a good story. I think the Hurt Syndicate MJF thing is a decent story. So they got something cooking. It's just the rest of the fucking show is just one word, 6 letters, boring, just like Monday Night Raw. It has one story and the rest is boring. Just like SmackDown, who has absolutely nothing going for them. At all. I mean, the solo Jacob thing is pretty interesting, but that's about it, right? And then you get NXT that has everything going for it. We got stories out the wazoo going on, right? Anyway, let's focus in now on the next segment. That's reviewing the shows for the week. We are going to the next segment, which will be the Deep Five. And the Deep Five this week is going to be my top 5 wrestling personalities that I'm tired of seeing on my TV screen and or my Twitter feed. So number 1, we've already talked about this man. His name is Jey Uso. Tired of seeing him on my TV screen, at least in the role that he's in. Number 2, Sami Zayn. Tired of seeing him on my TV. This bro is just mad annoying. I like the story he's in, so I mean, I don't really necessarily want you to kick him off the TV, but I'm kind of tired of seeing you in this corny ass fucking babyface role. Number 3, Cody Rhodes. Bro, when this dude came out at the end of Saturday Night Main Event, I was a little bit annoyed because we ain't need this shit. The fuck are we doing? But look, it's the Super Friends that I'm annoyed with, right? Because this is what, like, the third year in a row that the Super Friends tried to assemble. We got to assemble the Avengers at War Games every year. So now Cody and Jey are fighting Cena and who is it? Logan Paul at Money in the Bank. It makes no fucking sense. This makes no sense at all. Anyway, number 4, Chelsea Green. Her gimmick is corny and cringy as hell. I don't know if you guys are catching on the drift of what she's doing. I don't know how much you all pay attention to American politics, but she's essentially, her gimmick is that she's making fun of Donald Trump and MAGA, right? It's essentially her gimmick, that she's the heel, and so she's like, we gotta make wrestling great again. We're instituting tariffs. Here's my executive order. No, she's 100% making fun of MAGA and Donald Trump, which I think is fair play if it wasn't just so cringy, and if it wasn't that we understand that she's doing this and she's coming from a political perspective. If she wasn't so political online with her political beliefs, being the complete opposite of MAGA and Donald Trump, and that she's doing this more so as a way to pick fun of the group, the political beliefs of Donald Trump and MAGA, it wouldn't be so cringy. But it's cringy because of all this background. Tired of seeing it. I just wish, again, it's a bad gimmick. If your gimmick is solely just like, if it lacks depth, it's not a good gimmick. There's no way you can develop this character into anything serious. So it's just really bad. Especially now that she doesn't have the title, right? She should be like, if they would just bring back her TNA Laurel Van Ness character, that was a good character. Why? Like, I don't get it. Anyway, and then number 5, the last guy, and probably he's number 5 in how I'm announcing him, but number 1 wrestling personality that I'm tired of seeing on my Twitter feed, just because of the plain stupidity and child. This dude crashes out all the time. His name is Sean Ross Simpy. Sean Ross Sapp. Boy. Tired of seeing you all over the place. You're now in my Facebook mentions because I comment on one of your posts. I egged them on a little bit. But this dude crashes out like crazy. Just want to let you guys know. It's been 0 days since the last time Sean Ross Sapp has crashed out. I think we all can say, if you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. So the casual wrestling community and the real wrestling community, all kind of the same group of people. You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. And I'm hoping at the next live stream that Fightful does with Sean Ross Sapp on it, that we all can join up in the comments and troll him a little bit, right? Especially if it's on a Friday night and SmackDown's boring. Let's see if he goes live tonight. We'll troll him. We're not going to say nothing that we say is meant to be taken serious to Sean Ross Sapp anyway. Like, I put that disclaimer here. Like, anyway, but let's move on. Yeah, still a lot to talk about. React to that segment. That is where we are headed now. Here on the Stop at Me Wrestling Podcast. No, I'm kidding. We got a couple things to talk about. So the first one I want to just briefly mention is Omos went on Chris Van Fleet's podcast and had a really, really, really good interview that I thoroughly enjoyed watching. You learned a little bit more about Omos and his career and what's been going on and his disease that he's fighting. And it irritates me because this dude has charisma. If they would just let him not be in one of these stupid gimmicks that Vince McMahon put him in. It's been over a year since he's been in a WWE ring. Them cutting house shows really hurt him because that's where he was training and doing work. This makes 0 sense why he's not on the show. The dude can go, right? Dude's good. I just wanted to make mention of that. Fightful, again, take it with a grain of thought, being that that's the source, has reported that NXT officials are warning fans to not cuss while recording is happening, or you will be banned from coming to NXT. I don't know if you guys know this. NXT, when it takes place in Orlando, is invite only. You have to join their Facebook group. You get invited to come to the show. It's invite only. And so being that is the situation, I'm perfectly fine if this is true. Y'all know my stance on wrestling crowds. You are there to be a part of the show, not to take over the show. I do think here's the thing that always blows my mind, right? We complain all the time about WWE like censoring cuss words, and then we go to shows and say the cuss word chants, knowing they're going to be censored. WWE doesn't have to change their censorship of what they would consider negative words to their product. More especially because they're on live TV. WWE doesn't have to change their policy because you guys want to say, fuck you, Cena, right? Come up with a better, more creative chant, right? I kind of stand with NXT here. One, you didn't pay for the ticket to be here. You were invited to be here. So you have to, like, if I invite you to my house and you break my house rules, you're not going to be allowed in my house, right? That's how that works. And it's not, well, that's a stupid rule. No. It's my rule though. So you either abide by it or you get or you get out. Right. And so I have no issue with this. I know a lot of people do. I know a lot of people are like, well, just change the No. That's not how this works. I think this is 100% happening because CW is trying to paint themselves as a family-friendly network, right? And so this sort of and I think as a crowd, you have to live within that, right? You gotta understand what type of product you're. If you want to go do stupid cuss word chants, go to AEW. They'll allow it, right? I have no issue with them banning people from NXT and not inviting them anymore if they don't follow rules, because rules are in place for a reason, right? Bryan Alvarez has tweeted. I should have this tweet saved on my phone. I typically put it in my notes, but I forgot. Not prepared. Shame. What a shame. Anyway, I'm joking. But Bryan Alvarez has tweeted the following. If I can find it. The following. This is what Bryan Alvarez has tweeted. This is the quote. These are all quotes. Quote, yesterday I spent the whole day talking to all sorts of people in AEW. I will say with one exception, because if I say everybody, then, but it was actually everybody. Every single person was like, these shows are too long. We all know it. They should end before midnight on the East Coast. Every single person in the company that I talked to, except Tony, because I didn't talk to him, because of course he didn't think they're too long. Every single person there is like, they're too long. He just does it. We can't stop it. There's nothing that can be done. The shows are too long. Everybody knows it except Tony and a small handful of the sickos that would watch the show if it were 9 hours long. So that was on the podcast that Alvarez does, I think, with Meltzer, right? For the first time probably ever, I agree with Bryan Alvarez. I do agree with Bryan Alvarez. These pay-per-view shows are way too long. Way too long. Yeah, I just, there's no reason why a pay-per-view should end after midnight on a Sunday night. There's just no reason why a pay-per-view needs to end after midnight at any time. But so I like what JD from NY said here, right? It's not that they're 5 hours long. That's not really the problem. That is a problem, but it's not really the problem. The problem is you run a 4.5 hour show, 5 hour show, and you started at 8 o'clock, so it ends at 1 a.m. on the East Coast. If you were to just bump the show back to a 7 o'clock start time, you could run the 4 hour show, be done at 11, and most people won't complain about it. The complaints come that it's midnight and people got to wake up in 6 hours or 5 hours. There's some people who wake up at 4:30, so, right? Now, I know it's hard for sickos to understand that because they don't have a job. So they wake up at 10 o'clock, go down to mom's basement and play on Nintendo and watch anime the rest of the day. But for us hardworking people who actually have to go to work. Now, I don't complain because my start time at work is 9:30, so I ain't got to be there till 9:30, so I can sleep in till 7:45 and be fine. I don't complain about all of that, right? But if I worked a different, a corporate job or something where you had to be at the office at 7 or 7:30, right, and had to wake up at 5 or 6, yeah, getting 4 hours of sleep is really annoying, right? And so, yeah, Tony Khan, how about you do this, bud? Well, first off, when it comes to that show, half of that show could have been saved for Dynamite, and you could have run probably a 3-hour show that ended at 11, from 8 to 11, and still had the same matches that people were talking about be talked about, right? Because there were really only 3 major matches that really mattered, right? Outside of that, Anarchy in the Arena was fucking annoying. I hate Anarchy in the Arena. Thoroughly hate that gimmick. They play music during the match, and it's a spot fest for the sake of being a spot fest, and that is the reason I'm not a fan of it. Not a fan at all. And the last thing we're going to react to is a tweet that I kind of imagined would happen when Chick Williams won the title at the PLE. I kind of assumed this kind of tweet would happen. I got to find it again because I'm not prepared. He while I'm trying to find it, let's go back to Tony Khan real quick. Bryan Alvarez mentioned that everyone knows it, but they just don't want to talk about it. They don't. That Tony does it because he can. Guys, can you not like that's crazy? That this is why I say Tony Khan. This is why I say Tony Khan is the Jerry Jones of pro wrestling, right? He thinks he knows how to run a show, but he really doesn't. And if he just hired a director of football operations or director of wrestling operations, right, he would actually turn this thing around. And so that's like, is there no one that has the balls to stand up to Tony Khan? I think it's kind of crazy that no one would. This tweet is going away from me. Basically what he tweeted was, I wanted to quote it because, but here it is. All right, cool. So let me get this logic straight. This is from him. Let me get this logic straight from the WWE fans. You're okay with Trick Williams holding the TNA World Championship, but God forbid Kenny Omega held the belt. That's his tweet. And very two different situations. Here's why. Again, go back to the question that I asked. When was the last time that AEW had a TNA wrestler? Did TNA have a wrestler on their show from TNA on Dynamite? To my knowledge, I don't remember them doing so. Kenny just sort of went over, won the title, didn't really help the brand, right? What WWE through NXT in this partnership has done is you put Joe Hendry, first off, in main events of PLEs that are WWE PLEs. So TNA's main eventing WWE shows, while at the same time giving TNA the biggest name boost at WrestleMania. Gave them a WrestleMania moment this year. Joe Hendry may be the most impactful NXT champion in history in terms of what he did for the brand. He got him on WrestleMania. He got him in main events of WWE shows, right? This title being on Trick Williams is solely transitional to help sell tickets to their biggest show of the year in Slammiversary so that Mike Santana can win the title, and it benefits the brand of TNA. That is the difference. Yes, I'm okay with Trick Williams being TNA champion because ultimately what this does is benefit TNA. My complaint against Omega and Christian Cage winning it is that it didn't benefit TNA. It benefited AEW. It stroked the egos of Kenny Omega and Tony Khan while they were doing the partnership, right? And so you guys can go enjoy that same level of partnership with Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, since Scott D'Amore, who was running at TNA at the time, didn't understand business apparently, and then left TNA because he didn't want to work with WWE. Because why would you want to work with the biggest entertainment platform in your industry? It's just crazy to me. But sure, go enjoy the company run by Scott D'Amore and his partnership that's coming along down the turnpike. But no. Let's get honest. Like, there is a clear difference between what AEW did in their partnership and what WWE is doing in their partnership with TNA. And what WWE is doing is 110% all about development and getting TNA over. TNA will get TV deals because of this. TNA will get has become one of the most popular, right? I bet if you watch TNA Plus, if you see the TNA Plus subscriptions and the ratings and the people who watch the show, I guarantee you they're higher than what they were when AEW was partnered with the company. I don't have that data. I'm not privy to it, but I'm sure we can find someone who is. And maybe they can make a report on it. Right? Yes, I'm okay with Trick Williams holding this title because ultimately I know where this is headed to get TNA over. So with that, we will turn over to our final thoughts of the episode. And my final thought of the episode is this. WWE/TKO is actually doing more bad than good for wrestling. TKO Endeavor is doing right now more bad than good for wrestling. At the current moment, they are outpricing the majority of the fan base who want to go to shows, catering to a rich elite margin of the citizenship or of the populace who can afford the outrageous prices to go to these major events. In response to that, because the rich elite who go to these shows don't really care about storytelling and booking, they're just here for a social hour. You don't have to worry about the booking. You've thrown in the white flag on the booking, so you get poor booking. A reliance of shock booking, like The Rock returning or Cena winning the title and turning on Cody Rhodes and all of that, equals an awful product. So at the current moment, is this better than Vince? Excuse me. Is this better than Vince McMahon 2019? Absolutely not. That was the worst era of WWE. But Triple H, at the start of taking control of creative, was doing something good. Endeavor came in. TKO was formed. They got their TV deals and their money, and now they're doing boring product, reliance on throw it on the wall and see if it sticks, shock booking. Poor product, a worry solely about money, and what this is going to do is the hardcore fan, right? So here's what I've always said, right? Yes, you need the casual fan. The casual fan is important for the growth of the product, but you want to get the casual fan to come in so that you can change them into a more hardcore fan, right? It'll be like this, right? If I'm selling a product and you come in and you've never tried my product before, my goal is to get you hooked on my product so that you continue to buy my product. So the goal of wrestling should be, we need to cater a little bit to casual fans, bring them in, and then make them hardcore fans so that they continue to buy the product. And if you just, and what you're putting out there is not doing that. And the hardcore fans then are going to turn away to either alternative products, right? This would be the one time where if Tony Khan may be cooking something right now, right? I could give AEW some credit here if they can continue building multiple stories, not just Swerve, Hangman, and Ospreay, and not just Hurt Syndicate and all of that. But if they could do both of those at the same time while making something interesting in the women's division, which I don't think Mercedes or Toni Storm is. I think there's better stories you could build in the women's division, right? And interesting tag team stuff and interesting Okada stuff, right? The problem with Okada and Omega is that you sort of gave this away in December. That's what you were building to for this show. So none of it just seems important, right? But it could be if you didn't give it away. That's right. AEW has the opportunity, if they could tell decent stories, to take a lot of the fan base. I'd be open if AEW started to become entertaining and not boring, a boring wrestle fest where you put on 10 matches. They're running a 4-hour show, I think, next week. And it's going to be a pay-per-view on TV. And it's going to be absolutely god-awful. If you put on good TV, you have the opportunity to take away some of these more hardcore fans that are ready to tune out of the corporatism that WWE is shilling out. And because I'll be honest, even as a fan of WWE, right, I'm a little bit tired of the corporatism. Right? This isn't an anti-capitalist thing. Like, WWE definitely should make money, but it should be within the realm of the market, not in. There's a difference between like free market capitalism and then what we have in America, where it's just corporate companies controlling everything. And what we have right now is WWE being corporatist. And what corporatists do is they only care about the money. They don't care about the product, because they don't care about the customer. They just care about the money. And that's what I feel WWE is becoming at this point. And because of that, they're doing more bad than good in the industry. That's my final thoughts. That's the episode this week. We'll leave it to this. You got shock booking, you got soaring prices, and as a result, you have a sinking show. Let me know what you guys think. Actually, let me fill this in the way that I always do it now, right? Wrestling in AEW, some, in WWE, a lot, is one word, 6 letters. Boring. Y'all have a great rest of your weekend. I will see you on Tuesday. I'm WETOODEEP. This is the Slapping Me Wrestling Podcast. We will see you on the next episode.
So hit that subscribe, come along for the ride. AEW, WE, we're always on side. From fantasy booking to baddies that slay. Slapping me wrestling every Tuesday.